Let's talk about the things that hold us back in business. If you're building a business in the health and wellness industry, then you are definitely going to want to pay attention because I'm willing to bet that the things that you think are holding you back aren't really the things that are actually holding you back. This is true for many of us, but it's especially true for my guest today, Kat Chao, who has built a huge amount of success growing her social media audience on TikTok and Instagram, but she's still not where she would like to be business wise. And you're going to get to sit in as I coach her through this issue in real time. Now, Kat is a student of mine, and through the pandemic, she managed to organically acquire over 100,000 followers on TikTok and over 120,000 followers on Instagram. So, in this episode, you're going to hear us discuss the reasons behind that amazing success and find out how she manages to accomplish this feat. And I think you'll be surprised to learn how easily she was able to do it, especially since Kat is a mother of two young kids. However, even though she has got a huge audience on those platforms, as I mentioned, she's not quite where she wants to be business wise. Not yet, anyway. So, in this episode, you're going to watch as I dig into her business and her mindset around monetizing and see if we can uncover what's going on for her and what's holding her back from taking things to the next level. And I think you're going to find it fascinating. So, let's dive in. Well, hey, Kat, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kim. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to today's conversation because we're going to be talking in depth about your amazing success as an emerging social media influencer. And also, we're going to talk about where you want to take everything from here, which I know is just going to be such a fun conversation. But before we dive in, let's just give our audience a bit of context. Just go ahead and tell us just a little bit about the work that you're doing in the world, like what you're actually doing in the world, and maybe just a little bit about what brought you to this whole thing.
Yeah, so I started my little TikTok social media career about a year ago. And I started off just, talking about my weight loss journey. I went through years and years of yo-yo dieting in my lifetime and an eating disorder. So I felt compelled to sort of talk about that and talk about my journey as how I lost about 75 pounds during the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. And so I talked about weight loss. I talked about the foods I was eating. And it was mostly for myself, honestly. It wasn't really to influence anyone else. It was more of a way for myself to remember what I did to get to the point that I did. And sort of as a time capsule, as you can say.
Yeah.
And it was so I can look back and see all the achievements that I've gained over the years. And from there, I somehow got a little bit of a following on TikTok. And as I got more and more following on TikTok, they asked me, like, what am I doing on Instagram? Like, my profile was still actually private. And I have two young kids. And so I was very adamant of just keeping that to myself. But I started seeing that, they wanted a little bit more from me on the Instagram side. And Instagram is a little bit different from TikTok. I feel like Instagram is a little bit more personal, if you can say. And I feel like Instagram had sort of the persona of it being picture perfect. And I am not a picture perfect person. So if I was going to do TikTok and Instagram, I wanted to bring whatever I was doing on TikTok and bring it over to Instagram. And I think that sort of hit a mark with people on Instagram. It was a different audience. And somehow I grew a different following on Instagram. And it's been so far so good. I've been creating a community for myself, and it's all about food and wellness and just recipes and just me cooking. And it's been really fun so far.
I love that. And I love that that whole thing started so authentically, like just organically, right? You were just like even just doing it for yourself, not even thinking
Right.
about the audience, which is really that's the best mindset to approach social media, is like not to get caught up in thinking, oh, what do people out there want to see? But it's just like, I'm just doing this because it's fun for me. And I mean, for many people, like even I guess maybe even therapy or just like to just journal exactly what you described, the
Exactly.
journey that you went through. So that's really cool. I want to dig into a few things in there that you said about like especially the differences between TikTok and Instagram. But I also want to celebrate like this amazing success that you have had on social media. Like obviously you didn't start out thinking, oh, I'm going to blow up and get like, all these followers. Actually, how many followers are you sitting at right now in terms of
Um,
like,
on TikTok, I have 105,000 followers.
mhm.
And somehow on Instagram, I went from having maybe under 1,000 to now I 122,000 followers.
That is so awesome. Congratulations. That's so, and
Thank
I love,
you.
I love your use of the word somehow.
I honestly, I am blown away at the trajectory that I've come from, especially on Instagram, because I feel like there is, I don't know, there's talk in the social media realm saying how hard it is to grow on Instagram. And I feel
Mhm.
like it has somehow been easier for me on
Mm.
Instagram rather than TikTok. I've been sitting sort of at the same number at TikTok for quite some time.
Hmm.
And usually there's the talk of, oh, TikTok, you go from like 0 to 100 very quickly. And I kind
Right.
of did at a point, but it sort of trickled out as soon as, I guess we'll talk about this more later, but as popularity gained on TikTok. And I feel like Instagram was sort of forgotten almost. And
Mm.
so I think, I don't know, it just somehow worked out for me.
That's awesome though. And I mean, it is sometimes these things are so hard to like
Yes,
figure it out and do like an actual like forensic analysis of like how did this all actually play out.
exactly.
And I mean, it's fortunate in your case you can just be like, yeah, this is great. So but it's so interesting how so you started on TikTok obviously and
Hmm.
that because that felt like just you just felt more drawn to that platform sounds
Right.
like for what your purposes were and then you've since plateaued and now the
Hmm.
Instagram which wasn't even your idea to do in the beginning anyway it was like it
Hmm.
sounds like your audience was like hey how come we're not seeing you over on Instagram
Hmm.
and then you're you know, okay, fine. I'll get on board with the Instagram too. And now
Exactly.
that's the one that's really taking off. I think I mean there's just so many things, so many it's like wind changes on social media. Certain things become hot and popular and
Hmm.
then other things don't. And these are all the things that we don't have any control over, which can
Right.
be so frustrating for people who are trying to make something happen
Hmm.
on social media and you're in such a beautiful position that it sounds like you were never like push 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 I have to make this happen. It was like I'm just going to show up and see how things go, which is such a great energy and I think that that totally translates. I mean if I were to say
Hmm.
like one of the reasons why you've had such success is because I mean I love your videos. Like I watch
Thank you.
I'm not really like super into TikTok, but I am on Instagram
Hmm.
and I love your reels. Like I just and you're just so real. Like the way that you're talking right now is exactly how you come across on your reels, and it's just so. And I think that that's maybe because in part like you don't have that desperate energy like I need to crack the code of this
Hmm.
Instagram thing. I need to get out there, which I think unfortunately a lot of people do bring that energy and people can sometimes like that stuff comes through and we can pick up on
Right.
that
Right.
energy.
I feel like, I mean, the rise of TikTok was because it was so authentic
Yeah.
and you can just sort of, what's the word? It's spontaneous. I feel like that was sort of the notion with TikTok. It was spontaneous. It was almost anonymous, and which was
Hmm.
why I was drawn to it at first. None of my friends were on TikTok. It was known
Oh,
as
yeah.
what a dancing, lip syncing sort of a thing,
Right.
and what I was doing was not that. I was just like eating on camera or just talking about my weight loss. And I felt like I was talking to the ether, like to no one pretty much.
Right.
And I brought that energy to Instagram. And I think that's something that people are craving right now. They're craving like authenticity. And so I'm just trying to just really be myself. And if that doesn't come across well, then that's fine. I'm not putting pressure on myself. And I think that's incredibly important
Yeah.
in this
I,
social media game. Yeah.
agreed totally. Yeah, not putting pressure on yourself and also not changing who you are and how you're showing up
Exactly.
in order to kind of beat the algorithm. But like you are just there, authentic, it's raw. And I agree with you completely that because Instagram did have, and I still does have, like that
Hmm.
this sort of image of being like hyper polished, really like your highlight reel of your best photographs from your most glamorous, evening out, or whatever. Like it's just
Right.
it just really, yeah, that hyper polished image. And so though, from a consumer perspective, you're scrolling through that, like that, for a lot of us, that does not feel good. Obviously, for most of us,
No,
I don't
yeah.
think that
Hmm.
doesn't feel good. So then to encounter someone like you who's just like, just real, I'm just like eating on camera. I made this really cool thing. It's delicious, and I'm just going to eat it. And here's how I threw it together. And sometimes you've got makeup on, and sometimes you don't. Like I
Hmm.
love that is just like, you're just showing up. Here's my day. Here's what I'm
Hmm.
doing today. We're just going to have a conversation. And even the way that you've got your camera set up, like it's just, and for, those of you who are listening and watching, you definitely obviously have to go and check out Kat's, Instagram and TikTok channel. But like the way that you've got it set up, is so great, because you're just like, it's a very intimate kind of experience, because you've got, what do you do? Do you set the camera up on top of a counter, and then you're just like, you've got your food in front of you, and then you're just like talking into the camera, into your phone, I guess.
That's so funny that you mentioned that because I've been thinking of getting a tripod. I
Oh,
literally, I just lean it against a water bottle or something, and that's it.
I
I
love it.
just, yeah.
Low tech, like just MacGyver it, whatever. If you have to duct tape it to something so it doesn't fall down. Oh, that's perfect though.
Hmm.
But I think that's really, like, if I were to say, like, that probably is your secret sauce there, is that you're not pretending to create something like super polished. You're just leaning your phone up against a bottle, and then just talking into it.
Right.
And that definitely, that whole vibe, that energy really comes through. And people are craving that kind of real connection with people, with
Hmm.
other people who are just sharing something like interesting and fun and pleasurable from their day. And, so yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
I did notice that. I mean, I feel like definitely on Instagram, when you go down the reels portion, a lot of it is music and it's very quick paced. I
Hmm.
usually never see anyone talking. And so I feel like giving that person that one on one attention and having them feel as if you're on FaceTime with them,
Yes.
it's different, it's intimate. And I feel like it stands out a little bit on Instagram. And so, yeah, I think
I,
it's worked.
I agree totally. And that whole, like, that is exactly the feeling that you get, is that you're like, it's your friend like showing up
Mhm.
on FaceTime and saying, "Hey, how's it going?" As
Mhm.
opposed to, you're right, like so many of reels are very, and I think that this is what intimidates a lot of people to getting into TikTok and Instagram reels, is because we see these examples of these like crazy edited things that look
Mhm.
like they took all week to put
Mhm.
together, with all these like splices and stuff. And it's like, who's got the time to do that? I mean, obviously some people do, and it's amazing. And if you
Mhm.
do love to do that, because it's a
Mhm.
creative outlet for sure,
Exactly.
then I mean, all the power to you, definitely. But what you've done, and what we're talking about, is seems to me would be a lot easier to put together, right? Like, it's just, how much time does it take you to, like, you know just to throw up your camera on your kitchen counter and start talking about something that you're doing?
I mean, if it's an organic thing like a grocery haul or just me talking about a story time,
Hmm.
it's literally no time.
Right.
Those are the easiest things that I can get edited and push out. It's the cooking videos that do take a
Yes.
little bit more time and more like thought process, but at most, and I'm even including the cooking, it's like an hour at most. And I feel like that's not that much time because that's how long you're probably scrolling or more when you're on your own social media feed.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's great. And if it's just stuff that you're
Mhm.
doing anyway, like if you're unloading your groceries, then just, you might as well
Yeah.
just document it, and then somebody
Exactly.
else will think it's
Maybe find it.
interesting.
Exactly.
Well, because it is interesting, like those kinds of little things, when you share a little glimpse into your life. Like, I know
Mhm.
in the grocery store, I find it kind of interesting to see, what's the person behind me buying, like, or,
Mhm.
whatever. Like, it's just kind of, or maybe that makes me sound weird, but like, I'm
No.
just, if you're curious about what other people are doing in their life and what's working for them,
Mhm.
then that sort of like just a little glimpse into your life. And I think
Mhm.
that kind of content really plays well. So, okay, very cool. So let's connect all of this to the topic of business. I want you to
Mhm.
tell me, how are you feeling about leveraging this social media success, this awesome success that we've been talking about, leveraging it into actual business activities?
So this is where I'm sort of struggling, and I feel like it's an internal struggle for myself. So before I did all this, I used to have a small business. I had sold it before I had children. I am now a stay-at-home mother, and I never in a million years thought that this is what my life would turn into.
Yeah.
And so I honestly, I feel a little bit of pressure to monetize upon it.
Hmm.
I I but that's where the struggle lies. Should I monetize? But I my first and foremost focus in my life are my children, and they're
Hmm.
still very young. They're 3 and 5, and so
Hmm.
they still do take a lot of my attention. But I guess, do I do these sponsored ads? Do I go and try to sort of pivot and do a business and try to sell something to my followers? I don't know. It's just like an internal struggle that I've been having as to how I can sort of go from here with what I've built so far.
Yeah. And are you up for like digging into that a little bit? Because I would love to see, if we can peel back some layers and find out what's going on for you, just so that you can
Hmm.
end that struggle, like that internal struggle that you're talking about of like, should I, shouldn't I, feeling pressure, so that you can feel more clear
Yes.
on what to do with this. Like,
No. Yeah. Please
okay, cool.
coach me.
Okay, let's dig in. So, okay, so some of the things that you said were interesting. So, you said that you feel certain amount of pressure to
Mhm.
turn this into a business. So, where is that coming from? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Honestly, I feel like it's because I have these number of followers,
Hmm.
obviously, from my two platforms. And I feel like whenever people see that number, they automatically think, oh, she must be making some money or
Yeah.
making some sort of money, or she must be being approached to do these brand deals and yada, yada. But yes, I have made a little bit, but I don't think it's anything to really even like talk about. And so that's the pressure I sort of have with myself. Like, should I be making more? Should I be making these brand deals? But at the same time, I don't want to feel like a commercial. I still
Mm.
want to come across authentic to my followers. Um, Another thing is, and this is very privileged of me, I don't need to be making money. I was a stay at home mom. My husband is the breadwinner. But if I can make my own money, then, that's a great little thing for myself to show my children that, yeah, mom can work too.
Hmm.
So that there's also that thing. But mm,
Yeah. So it sounds like there's pros and cons, of course, on that
right.
side. And it is a beautiful thing for you that you actually don't have that like pressure that you have to monetize this. This has to become a money earner for you.
Hmm.
And as we talked about, I mean, I think that that's probably one of the reasons why you've been able to find the success that you have, is because none of that desperate energy is coming through, which is great. Um, and I definitely hear you say that integrity is incredibly important to you, which is great.
Hmm.
You don't have to start to like, sell out or anything like that in order to make money. So you're not going to.
Hmm.
That's really clear. And I love that. So, but all of that said, there's something going on that's making you feel like, should I be? So, can you identify like where is that coming from? Like, is that coming from your followers, like the strangers, or or is it from like people that you know in your life, like our family and friends? Do they ask you how much money are you making from like all your followers or anything like that? Like, could you pinpoint like where is that expectation that you should be making money from this successful social media platform?
I I don't think it's from anyone external. I think it's genuinely
Mm,
for myself. And
okay.
because I've always, having run my business for 9 years and having made money, and I was the former breadwinner between my husband and I think
Okay.
having had to let go of that and then to have not worked and to not be able to, no, let me backtrack. I can spend my husband's hard earned money however I see fit,
Yeah.
but I feel a deep down like a pause, I would say. Like, okay, I can't just like buy anything that, because I'm a grown up now. I need to act like an adult and I need to, it
Hmm.
sounds ridiculous.
No,
Just,
it's
I need to
good.
save money and I need to allocate funds into appropriate places. And so I feel like if I can make my own money, then not that I will be spending on inappropriate things, but it would be my own little fund that I can have say as to how I spend things. I
And do
think that's,
you, yeah. Oh, sorry, go on.
no, I think that's just genuinely the deep down bit of where this is all sort of stemming from.
Okay, right. So it's not, so it sounds like, yes, you're in a, on the one hand, you're acknowledging, I don't have to turn this into a money earning venture. It's not
Hmm.
required.
Hmm.
Perfectly comfortable without that, because you were a stay-at-home mom before, not earning any after you left your
Hmm.
business, after you closed that. So you don't have to, but it sounds like maybe you would like to. Is that fair to say? Like it would
Yes,
be
no,
nice.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, right. Because as you identified, it would give you some income that you is just for your own, like just for to do what you would like to do with like that bit of freedom and
Hmm.
independence or autonomy or whatever that comes
Exactly.
with that.
Hmm.
Okay. So, yeah, because that I was going to ask you that. Like, would you, starting with like, would you even like this to be monetized in some way? Because if you really could not care less, then, that's one consideration. But if you're like,
Hmm.
actually, I would like this to become a bit of a business or to monetize in some way. So it does sound like that's where you're at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, now let's talk about what is standing in the way, right? Like so we know that you've got a really very healthy following on two social media platforms, and you have the desire to monetize this in some way. So then where's the disconnect? Like tell me about what's when you think about that, okay, what are the obstacles that are coming up for you?
I think it would come down to integrity. I don't want to seem like a sellout.
Mhm.
Um, as a social media consumer myself, every time I see an influencer's post about something and they're pitching something, I'm automatically turned away. It
Mm,
turns me off. And so I don't want that to be the case for myself, and that's where I'm a little nervous about this whole thing.
right. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so it feels like you've got some concerns about
Hmm.
how you're going to come across. Is it going to change things in terms of how your audience perceives you, and are members of your audience going to start to see you differently and
Hmm.
potentially worst case scenario view you as a sellout and lacking in integrity if you start talking about or promoting things or those
Hmm.
kinds of things. Is that fairly accurate?
Yes. So for now, the brand deals that I have done, I've only accepted those that I truly love and use in my everyday life. So
Mhm.
that's sort of been the benchmark for brand deals per se. But in, I'm also, I guess, thinking of like, what else can I do other than brand deals? Because
Mhm.
the brand deals are limited because that is one way I can control my integrity, I guess.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Yes. Okay, right. So this is actually I'm so glad that you said this because this is exactly what I was going to say is that there is more than one way to skin a cat here. No pun intended. But and maybe that's a offensive phrase to use for you. But it doesn't have to be just brand deals.
Mhm.
I mean, we can talk about that because I there there would be ways, if that was something that, if you want to do collaborations and ventures and brand and sponsorships and things like that, there's definitely ways to do that with
Mhm.
integrity. Um, and we can talk about that. But before we even talk about that, there are other ways to monetize. Have you considered other ways that you might try to monetize your platform?
I have thought, oh, maybe I could. I've thought of several different random things, but nothing, I haven't really delved in deep, to be quite honest. I've thought about like condiments, but, and I don't, I even thought about coaching,
Hmm.
wellness coaching. Um, but I haven't really dug deep yet as to how and like the whole business plan of things.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because it really is like, I mean, it's not exactly the opposite of what a lot of people, that I interact with are dealing with, but in
Hmm.
some ways it is. Many people are quite clear that they want to, be a wellness coach or provide services and things like that. But their challenge is to get the platform and the audience and
Hmm.
the eyes and ears on them. You got
Hmm.
the eyes and ears, but what are you doing with those eyes, and like how are you leveraging that? That's the
Hmm.
challenge.
Hmm.
So I think that is, so if you say that you haven't really dug deep into it yet to think about the different ways that you could
Hmm.
monetize, I think that that's one of your very next steps, it sounds
Yes.
to me, is to really just give yourself permission to
Hmm.
sit down and really think, okay, if I were to leverage the fact that I have like the eyes and ears of potentially 200,000 plus people, because you said
Hmm.
that you feel that your audiences are different, right? Like the TikTok and
Hmm.
Instagram,
Hmm.
different
Yes.
people. And then plus you've got more than 200K anyway. But yeah, so like up, so it's a lot of people.
Hmm.
And there are so many different ways that you could use that position to actually start to monetize. And it
Hmm.
could be services, it could be coaching, maybe you want to write a book, like that you could, there's speaking engagements, like, so many potential opportunities. But I
Hmm.
would love for you to really to sit down and generate a list of potential ways that you could monetize. But do you feel like you can do that? Do you feel like you have enough knowledge, or is there anything that's getting in the way of you thinking about the different monetizing avenues?
Um, it's a lot of change in our household right now. We're getting
Mm,
ready to move. My husband's changing jobs, and so I feel like I've always need to take a step back, focus my energy on my children first, and then the home, and then my family, overall family, and then okay, then my career is probably on the bottom of the list. And so yeah, I know I need to, all the things I listed before are definitely important and things that need to take my attention. But I do realize, okay, I am important too. And so I need to also focus on myself as well. So you're right. I need to take some time apart of my day and write a list exactly of like what I need to do to go forward and to move forward.
yes. I'm glad that you said that you are important too, because it is true, of course, but
Hmm.
you need to feel that, right? Like
Hmm.
you need to believe that. And absolutely, your kids, I totally get that. They're priority number one, because you're right, like they are very young. So you're in a very busy phase of motherhood for sure. There's no doubt about that.
Hmm.
And you need to ask yourself, is it possible to have a thriving career and
Hmm.
be a very hands-on mom and really prioritize your kids? Are those two things compatible in your mind? Tell me about that.
I think so because I feel like social media, it's on my time. And so if I can do it while they're in preschool or in school, then yes, I feel like it's incredibly doable as long as I prioritize and do time management incredibly well. But of course, then it's that I never get time to myself and all those little thoughts creep into my head. But if I really want it, then I really need to just make time and do it and prioritize my time, especially like incredibly well if I want to achieve the things that I want to achieve.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Hmm.
agreed. And exactly like you said, it's on your terms. Like it's
Hmm.
your time. That's the beautiful thing about building your
Hmm.
own business or like any kind of entrepreneurial venture. And I mean, I know that you knew this from before when you owned a business,
Hmm.
but that was before kids, and it's like
Before that's different now. Yeah.
everything changes, of course. But still, like so this current venture is going to be completely on your terms. But I do wonder, like, is that one of your fears perhaps, is that this is going to be like a runaway train and you're going to lose that ability to um to make those decisions about, like, and not um not have it take over all of your time, your personal time, your time with your kids, because like you just
Oh.
said, as we
Hmm.
identified, like the social media took off, you weren't expecting it, you weren't planning on it.
Hmm.
And so I wonder if that's underneath there, because I have heard you say a couple times how important it is for your kids, and you don't want that to anything to threaten that, right? So
Yeah.
I wonder, what do you think of that? Is that a possibility?
Oh, definitely. Because they are my priority. And the thing is, with me and my childhood, my parents were never around because they were busy trying
Ah,
to, make a life for themselves as first generation immigrants to America. And so I always made a promise to myself that I would be there for my children no matter what. And so I feel like me going down this avenue of entrepreneurship and wanting to make a career out of the social media thing, it sort of backtracks my original sentiment of wanting to be completely available to my children. But at the same time, I feel like as long as I can do both and balance both, which I know it's not going to be easy, social media right now, it is bringing me a lot of happiness and joy. And so
mhm.
do my children. And so as long as I can fully give both the things a good balance and equal attention, and as long as I'm in a good mental state about it, I feel like I will take it as far as I can until I can't. And then
Yes.
from there, I will relieve that pressure for myself and obviously focus my energy towards my children.
That's a lot of juicy stuff that you just uncovered there, I think, right? Like where, like, because your parents were not present for you. And so
Hmm.
it sounds like you're correcting that wrong by being super present for your kids,
Hmm.
which is amazing. And they're so lucky, to have you. And it's an and kind of thing. Like, is it possible for you to be that, to really like just to live that truth that you want to be present for your kids, and also have this project, this venture, this business for that's just for you? And yeah, of course,
Hmm.
like you said before, they will see that, especially as they get older. It's a beautiful thing for kids to be able to witness mom
Hmm.
building something of her own and turning it into something incredible. Like that's
Hmm.
amazing for kids to witness. But even that aside, it's also for you, and
Hmm.
you are allowed to have something that brings you pleasure, fulfillment, joy, satisfaction, all of that, and it doesn't have to detract from the kids. But I suspect that that there are some deep-seated fears that this thing's going to blow up and it's going to take all your time and you're going to lose control, and then you're going to turn into the thing that you swore to yourself you weren't going to turn into,
Hmm.
which is an absentee parent who's just too busy for their kids.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
is my worst fear.
It's your worst fear, right? So,
Yeah.
of course, so knowing that, like identifying that that is your worst fear in your own words,
Hmm.
that then of course you're holding back from
Hmm.
turning this into something that takes on a life of its own. Of course, you're holding back from monetizing, because anybody would be crazy to like jump into something that could end up in their worst fear. Like, why would you do that? Why would any
Exactly.
sane person do that? So,
Mm.
but it's not until you really identify, like, oh my God, that's because this is triggering my worst fear. So I'm not
Mhm.
I'm not even going to go down that pathway, because I can't guarantee that I can control it, and I can't guarantee that I'm not going to turn into the nightmare version of myself that I've been trying to avoid my entire
Mhm.
adult life.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, what we need to do then is like knowing that that's the thought, because that fear is going to come up for you.
Mhm.
Like it's, we kind of like pulled it out right now, but every time that you have to make a decision going forward,
Mhm.
if you get contacted by a sponsor and they are like, oh, we'd love you to sponsor, that little gremlin is going to come up and be like, oh, this is going to lead me down the road to like,
Mhm.
doing what I don't want to do, which is being an absentee mom.
Mhm.
So you are going to need to find, it's going to be so important for you to find some really empowered phrases or a mantra, an affirmation, something like that, that you can say to yourself to
Mhm.
remind yourself that there is room for both, that
Mhm.
you are in control. You are always going to get to decide which things you say yes to and which things you say no to,
Mhm.
and that you are not, you're going to hold your boundaries and not
Mhm.
allow this to become a runaway train,
Right.
something like that. So
Right.
tell me what's coming up for you as I'm saying all of this stuff, though.
But yeah, I am in control, and I am in control of what I can do. I am in control of the work that I give myself. I am in control of whether I say yes or no. It is really up to me. And I determined how much effort I put into social media, how much effort I put into my children, and how much effort I put into myself. And so I am in control.
Yes. Yeah, I'm in control. That's a really simple phrase that you can say and even like write it on a post-it note or like,
Mhm.
stick it up somewhere to say, I am in control.
Mhm.
And that means that the power is with you. You are the CEO of this
Right.
project. And so that means if something comes to you, like an opportunity, speaking engagement, whatever, and if it does not align, it does not fit, or it's going to take too much time and the ROI for you is not going to be there, or whatever it is, then you
Right.
say, nope, not doing that because I'm in control. I'm the
Mhm.
CEO. And being super clear on what your priorities are. But that doesn't mean like sacrifice, like your priorities are making sure that you are the mother that you want to be. And that also doesn't mean you sacrifice what you want to do. There is room
Exactly.
for both, definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Completely
I
agree.
I love it. Okay. So from there, so that's like the mindset piece, right? Because
Mhm.
because we could brainstorm all kinds of ideas of the different ways that you could monetize and we could have the most beautiful plan for what you're
Mhm.
actually going to do logistically. But if there's that mindset piece underneath, it's like, this sounds really great, but I'm worried that what this is going to mean is that I'm not going to have any time for my kids anymore, then you won't do it. You will not follow through. You will
Mhm.
not like take the steps, so that's why that mindset piece is so crucial. So make sure that you do some work on that and take that affirmation, I'm in control, whenever
Mhm.
sort of workshop that if you want to,
Right.
or maybe that's exactly the right thing, but just be able to remind yourself of that all the time. But
Right.
then from there, I would love for you to to brainstorm some monetizing ideas. I bet
Mhm.
that there would be so many ways. I know that there are so many ways, so many people out there that you could actually help, with coaching or with some kind of service or a group or workshops or all kinds, so
Mhm.
many different events, like just tons of different things that you could do, and you've just got the luxury of okay, well, what kinds of things could I do to really to make even more of a difference in people's lives beyond just what you're doing right now, which is great. Like you're
Mhm.
definitely touching a lot of lives, and people are obviously enjoying what you're putting out. But could you go even deeper with people and do something even more?
Right. Yeah. Need to make that list.
Yes, yes, make that list. And also, what I was also thinking is that I think another powerful step would be to put it to your audience to
Mm.
you could find a way because yeah, yes, I want you to think of like what sort of things do you feel called to do that would lead to
Mhm.
monetizing your platform, but also put it out to them, like what are people interested in, like and maybe you do your internal work first of all, but then check and see, maybe you could create a little poll, there's all kinds of different ways that you could do it,
Right.
do a little video, but ask people, if if they're interested, like, are they interested in an event? Are they interested in a coaching program? Are they interested in a guide, or, something that you could create?
Hmm.
Um, Something along those lines. If there was something that if there were a few things that you were kind of considering, then put it to your audience, because they'll certainly tell you what they would be interested in the next thing getting from you.
Right. That's so true.
Yeah. I mean, some people are perfectly happy to just like watch you consume your content. But
Hmm.
there is zero doubt in my mind that there are a whole lot of people out there who love watching you. And if they could get more of you in some
Hmm.
way, they'd be all over that.
Thank you. I know it's overwhelming to sort of see it on my end, but then also to hear it. It's like I have to give myself a little bit of credit and just give myself a little bit of affirmation. I've come a long way, and even just speaking to you right now, I've it's a big milestone for me. So I'm
That's
happy.
awesome.
Yeah.
You have come so far, and don't give yourself a little bit of credit. Give yourself a lot of credit. You get a lot of credit, because really what you've done is something amazing. I mean, if you thought about like 200,000 people in a room, there is no room that holds 200,000 people. Like,
Right.
it's just an enormous, enormous amount of people. And
Yeah.
I mean, I do understand what you're saying about like, it's overwhelming to think
Hmm.
about that. Like, it's just kind of like, it's hard to even get your
Yeah, it's
head
hard to grasp.
around.
Hmm.
Yeah. But what I also wanted to just sort of highlight there is that, as overwhelming as that is, and as big as this whole thing has become for you in a relatively
Hmm.
short period of time, this whole thing you have done on your own terms, right? Like,
Exactly.
just circling back to what we were talking about before, when, the videos that many of those videos that you're making, it's just stuff that you're doing in your day, or maybe it takes an hour. Like, as it stands, even though the audience that you've built is huge, it hasn't sucked the life out of you. It hasn't taken time away from your
Hmm.
family, from yourself, that kind of thing. And there's no reason why going to the next level, like monetizing, would do that, right? Like,
Exactly.
and I think it's maybe this sort of barrier that you've created in your mind of like, well, I can't
Hmm.
go past that barrier, because then I'm going to be compromising my values. Um, but it's an artificial barrier. You've built this far without compromising on your values. There's no
Hmm.
reason why you can't take it to the next level without compromising, because you're in control.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think I need to be more open and allow myself to go there. You're right.
Yeah. A lot of this, I think, is permission. Like,
Right.
giving yourself permission to
Hmm.
do this, and that you're going to do it on your own terms. And if it starts to tip into something that doesn't feel great and
Hmm.
isn't in alignment with your values, then you're going to stop that.
Right.
There's nothing that's going to be so out of your control that you can't sort of close it off and just say, actually, I've reevaluated that wasn't working with my priorities, so that's closed now. You can
Yeah.
totally do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I just need to tell myself that I can do it. And yeah, I think a lot of it is right. You're right. I'm not giving myself permission to go there. And it is sort of a limited belief sort of thing where, huh, mm, what I'm doing right now only takes a little bit of my time every single day. So what would happen if I gave a little bit more effort, or even just like an extra hour in my day? The things that I could achieve, you never know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The
Hmm.
sky is the limit, and it seems that the sky, that limitless sky, doesn't require a huge amount of input of time and energy from you. Because look at how far you've come with not a huge amount, like with a
Hmm.
manageable amount, right? Like, not to
Hmm.
I don't want to minimize what you have actually put together, because you
Hmm.
show up regularly, and that's amazing. But you've been doing it on your own
Hmm.
terms, right? And
Right,
there's
right,
no reason why that can't continue.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's awesome. Okay, I love it. So, okay, so let's make sure that you're crystal clear on what you're going to do next. Like, what is your very next step for this?
It's to write that list, that business plan, I guess, to see what sort of ways I can monetize my social media, really brainstorm as to the things that I enjoy, what I think would attract my following, and what I would be happy with and keep my integrity with. I think that will take me some time because now I know I am in control. I'm going to be telling myself that mantra.
Yes.
And uh, I am in control as to what I can say yes or no to. And I will probably be reaching out to my audience and see what they are sort of feeling and what they sort of want from me in the future. So I think that's a really good suggestion from you.
Yeah, I love that. And I
Mhm.
just want to modify just a little bit about because
Yes.
you said write a business plan. That sounds really onerous and like a project and a half. Don't worry about writing a business plan
Right,
just
right,
yet.
right.
All you're doing, you're just giving just make this as easy as possible, giving yourself permission to sit down, carve out a little time when your kids are preschool or whatever, to just sit there with a journal or an online document or whatever works best for you, and just allow yourself to dream like how what would be some cool streams of income that would feel really good? What do I
Mm,
Because you get to follow what feels good for you. So like
right.
just brainstorm, think about what would be great. Don't worry about the how just yet. Like don't get caught, and that's what that when you said business plan, because business
Hmm.
plans contain like a whole bunch of like how it's
Right.
actually going to come together. Don't worry about that part just yet. You're at the stage right now where you're just kind of dreaming and allowing yourself to even get into the headspace of what this could look like.
Hmm.
And then from there, refining your list by talking to your audience. I think that would be just so great to
Okay.
hear from them. And I think that will also give you a lot of validation that
Hmm.
you're on the right track and that there are people out there who would love to have these kinds of things coming from you, to get more from you.
Hmm.
And throughout that whole thing, always with the mindset of like I'm in control. I'm not going to go
Hmm.
down roads that are out of control for me, and I am going to continue this in integrity with my values just like I have
Hmm.
been this whole time.
Right. I think you're so right. I do get hung up on the hows. And so,
Yes.
and I feel like that always sort of like puts a halt on my decision making almost
Yeah.
or my brainstorming. So you're right. I'm in the dream phase right now. So I just need to bullet point, keep things simple, and just list things out right now.
Yeah, permission to dream. Like just
Yes.
just fantasize. Even if there's something on there that you're like, that seems incredibly like difficult, or I've never done anything like that before. Like, be on the lookout for any of those kinds of disempowering thoughts. Like, well, you've never
Hmm.
done that before. What
Hmm.
makes you think you could do that? Or I have no idea how that would work. Or I don't know anyone who's done that before. Like any of those kinds of thoughts,
Right.
just shut those down
Hmm.
because you're not in the how to stage. You're just in the
Hmm.
what's possible stage, that possibilities thinking, which is a really fun stage to be at.
So true. Okay.
Yeah. This has just been so fun, Kat. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I have no doubt that our audience enjoyed it too. But yeah, let me know. Well, how was this for you?
No, this was so fun. This is my first ever podcast. So this was really fun. It was just like, talking to you and it's just nice and comfortable. So thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, that's so great. Now, before I let you go, just tell us exactly where people can actually go to learn more about you and get in touch with you if they're feeling inspired, and of course, to check you out on social.
So my social media is Instagram at Kat Chow Meow and TikTok at Kat Chow Meow. It's KATCHAO Meow.
I love
MEOW.
it. That is so cute and catchy. And it's just, I love it. And irreverent. I love it. That's really cute. And I will put those in the show notes too so that people can
Thank you.
easily find you. All right. Okay. Take care, Kat.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. I hope that you enjoyed that and that it gave you some insight into what has actually worked for at least one influencer on how to grow a massive audience on social media. And I hope that it has also given you some insight into the various mindset gremlins that can hold you back, even when it seems like on the outside someone is super successful. Now, even though Kat's situation is particular to her, I don't want you to make the mistake of thinking that those mindset blocks that she's dealing with are unique to her. We all have these kinds of stories that we tell ourselves and limiting beliefs. And if we listen to them, they will hold us back. And it's just so important to pay attention to your own mind when it tries to slow you down or stop you so that you can manage your mind rather than allowing it to manage you. So I'd love to know what you thought of this episode. What came up for you? And also let me know if you enjoy sitting in on these kinds of coaching sessions and if they're helpful, because I'm happy to do more of this kind of content if it's valuable for you. If you're watching on YouTube, then be sure to drop me a comment below this video. If you're listening to the audio of this episode, then just find me on Instagram and let me know. I would love to hear from you. Okay, that's a wrap for today. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you again very soon.